Hello, world. And there's nobody here yet. You know what? I forgot one thing. I had everything else in order. Of course, I'm always out of order, but that's beside the point. Hey, Santa Fe Bob, what's happening? Hey, Dave. And another Dave. Welcome aboard, gentlemen. Sidetrack Sunday number 3, and this one here will prove to be a little bit interesting, I'm sure. Right now, I know we've got a little bit of an odd view, but I'm going to waiting to see how many people actually pop in here, and then we'll actually get into it. We'll actually go ahead and start having some fun down here for a change. You've been quiet for the last hour. Emma, our Pyrenees Anatolian mix. Anything that passes by the front of the house, she has to bark. Like I said, sorry for not actually looking at the screen, and there's a reason why, and you'll all see that here in a little bit, but just waiting to see who all pops in here. Right now we got 5 of us. Actually, it's really only 3 of us because I've actually got me on the phone. Because of what I'm going to be, what's going to be happening tonight, I'm going to be carrying the phone around so I can kind of keep an eye on the chat. Because I'm not going to be sitting where I'm sitting at the where I'm at the moment. It was a victory flag weekend. Hey, Dwayne. It was a victory flag weekend for me because we finally finished putting together our patio. Hey. In fact, we finished up at 6:30 this afternoon. So, yeah, that was 10 foot by 40 foot, 40, 44, 20 or 44, 60-pound paving stones. So, yeah, a little sore, but I'm here, ready to kick this off. Let's see. There's 7 folks watching. It'd be really nice. I'm sorry if I kick this thing. I've got this thing set up a little bit different than. Yeah, exactly. On to the next project, Bob. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the next project is going to be down here with the railroad, because from what it sounds like, it's going to be getting. We're the Maryland weather is finally going to start to hit. We're going to be up in the 90s for the next few days. I am so glad I got that thing done before that happened. Yeah, like I'll have to we'll have to take some video of that for another time. But hey, Skull Kill, I know I'm screwing that up. I know it. SRV. There we go. That's what we're going to do. Like I was saying in my past ones, what I'd really like to do, because I know that some folks don't have their names in their channels, is I'm going to come up with a spreadsheet that has all that stuff, because that way I know who I'm talking to. Even though, I'm used to talking years and years ago, talking on a CB, and nobody nobody does that anymore, unfortunately. But yeah. Yeah, Dave. Or you're out in Arizona though, right? Or are you down? Are you down south? Oh man, Arizona. That's what I thought. Yeah, you dry heat, but you can keep it. Of course, when it hits 100 here, it feels like 115. So you know. Okie dokie. Well, there's 7 of us. What's that? Wait. Oh, hanging with the cuz. Nice. No, I didn't have a CB to do that. Actually, I made friends with quite a few of them when I was odd story, but when I was driving back and forth to school up in Harrisburg after when I was in the service, I would drive up to Harrisburg Sunday night, stay up there all week, and then come back on Friday. I made friends with a couple of the local guys, and there was a couple of times. Here it is. I was the only 4-wheeler in a convoy of like 8 or 10 trucks because of the fact that I mean, it just got to the point. They knew who I was. I knew who they were, and there was a couple of times that there was a couple of them that were out of staters or non-locals that were picking on the fact that I was the 4-wheeler, and the guys were like, "This isn't your normal 4-wheeler guy." He's cool. We used to meet up at the rest stop just over the Pennsylvania line, and we would truck. We would just head on up from there. Man, it was cool. It was cool. I miss those days. And then when I got out, well, while I was still going through school, actually, no, when I got done with school, there was a group of about 20 of us that were hobbyists with the CBs, and we would hang out on Friday nights and Saturday nights, and then just sit there, and we would pick a spot. We'd all meet up, and then we'd all disappear. It was cool. But yeah, those were the days. I guess this is the new CB world. Just has video with it now. Of course, then again, everybody says I've got a face for radio, but that's beside the point. Um, Anywho, I think I'm going to go ahead and get this rocking and rolling. As I mentioned in the description tonight, this video is going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to go ahead and swing the camera and basically show what I'm talking about. So give me a second here. Oh, as I go off camera. Let's see. What did I do here? I know what I did. I just need to take this, put it back that way. Hopefully that looks okay. Yes, it does. Perfect. All right. Well, you guys and gals, I don't know if there's any gals in here yet, but you're sitting there on the camera looking at the Richmond yard and the Harrisburg yard, and I've been doing some work down here the past week or so, doing some test operations, and knock on wood, things have been going somewhat smoothly. Somewhat. Hey, Rodney. Oh boy. Yeah, here we go. No metal posts tonight, bud. Got some wood posts. Got some wood posts. No metal posts. So what we're going to do is we're going to get started on some operations here. Just for the sake of doing it. Now you know why I'm sitting here watching myself on the phone, so I can still see the chat. Of course, you guys probably can't hear me now, because that's beside the point. All stations, CNN dispatch. Is this not working all of a sudden? We're off the back. Right off the bat, we're going to have problems, right? You know that old saying, everything works until somebody is watching. All right. You know what? Where the heck did the rest of that train get off to? Everything works until you have somebody watching. Typical. Absolutely typical. And of course, in the midst of that deciding to do that, I'm not sure I went ahead and shut the dispatch down. Right. Yeah. Hey, Jerry, welcome aboard. Sorry, I'm just getting back through the chat after that little snafu. Yeah, they drop the cars off automatically. Yeah, you bet. I hope it isn't going to be like this all night. Sorry about that, folks. And yeah, this is a new or a different view there, Jerry. I'm actually trying to run a little bit of an op session here for a change. And of course, the first two trains off decided that they weren't going to be happy with me. So far, perfect. Sweet. All right, now, that is not ready. All right. Sweetness. Now, tighten these down just a little bit. All right. Cool beans. Oh, can we leave the posts alone for a change. Jeez. All right, so he comes off. Because the only thing is, I forgot to grab the cards, I'll have to do that. But that's okay. I'll have to grab those when I get the proof rates going. Which are next on the line. Now I've got two through freights that I've just sent out. I think what I might do at this point is, let's swing the camera over to the opposite side here. So instead of looking at the yards, we're now looking down the main line over top of Newton's farm. And the whole train stopped. Really? All right. Let's go this way. Back to the hidden yard side. Yeah, I'm getting my steps in tonight, that's for sure. You know what, Rodney? Jeez. Not too bad. I'm only 1.5 hours in. Oh, cool. All right, now. There's going to get broken down over there. This one's going to get broken down over here. There's it there. And there's that. Now, so I got plenty of them down there. You know what? Let's make it down to the tree. That's good. That'll be much better now. Green. Put the tank cars in. Now, I figured it would give me some room. It give me a whole lot. That's okay. This is going to give me enough. I'll get these out of the way. Let's see, it goes over here. And Donald Hudson is the next one, or the next one out. So, perfect. These guys go over here. Sweet. All right, so Delaware and Hudson. Now, if you've been watching the vlogs, especially the last couple where I was talking about where things, trying to do this by yourself is a bit of a bear. And that's why I was saying, once things clear up and I can actually start getting some folks together, this thing is going to keep folks occupied, no doubt. But that's okay. It's going to be a bit before we get there, because once I get finished proving this thing out, which is pretty close. Hey, Tom. It's pretty close to being proven out that it's going to work in its present configuration. So with that being that, the next job is going to be actually gluing everything down. Now, one of the things that I talked about, actually it'll be in the upcoming vlog, that I noticed is, you take a look at this gondola train, for instance, right now. It's basically taking up the whole outbound track. There's no room for a locomotive. That's fine. What I've been doing is I've actually been using outbound number 4, this inner one here, to put the locomotives on. All four of these tracks are dead tracked. In other words, there's no power after you get to a certain point. For case in point, track 4 here, this curved piece is actually dead. There's no power past it. Originally, I thought about throwing some DPDT switch or SPST switches up here, but that's going to clutter things up too much, and it's going to be a pain in the butt. So instead, if you notice what I'm doing when I go to release a train, I'm just pushing it past and letting the power pick it up from that point beyond where the dead track actually sits. So let's see here. We got a Wabash, we got a B&O, we got a chassis system, we got a Lackawanna. Where the heck is that one? There it is. There's the first one up there. The Southern, State of Connecticut, Burlington Northern, BTI, and Maine Central. And yeah, these are the car cards that I've been talking about. And you notice in each one of these cars has a card. It does not have a waybill yet because I haven't gotten that far. And this is supposed to be the Delaware and Hudson locomotive. So we're going to set him out here. Because actually the next train on the line is going to be this Rio Grande passenger train. So the car cards go into the locomotive pocket, which I have to fix. And if you notice, I've got these little hangers up here. What I'm doing there, oh, that hurt. What I'm doing there is holding that for the trains that are going to be going outbound. And I'm sorry if I've been talking and not paying attention to the chat. Now, it might be a bit because I'm a bit far, I'm not right on top of things. The camera's over there. So he goes up there, and then we can break this guy down. And now you can see what I'm talking about. You got a guy in either yard here, and as trains are going in and going out, they're going to be busy. They're going to have to keep up. And that's one of the other things I actually talked about in the next, I think it's the next vlog or this vlog. The JMRI, I've got the track length set, but obviously when I'm running these through freights, the train length is actually longer than the actual track length, which JMRI probably is not going to be very happy with. So I'm going to have to go back and lengthen that a little bit. So that way, you know, it works out. So that was the FP45. It was up there. Make these turn through there. Then a half through there. He goes back. And I've got to build up another freight train here. Let's see. That's probably going to be a local, from the looks of things, because I have got stuff down here that I'm going to have to pull out. So I need 8 boxcars. That ain't going to be a problem. I know I've got plenty of them down here right now. Let's see. That's this one. All right. Set that one up. Let's start putting some cars on. Ow. What? If I was smart, I would have put re-railers in here. I wasn't smart, so I didn't put re-railers in. All right, why are you being a pain in the rear? 2, 3, 4, one more. All right, now just need to assign some power to me. Let's see here. Well, looks like it's going to be the VQ237. Now I need to find the cars. That's not one of them. And that's not one of them. And that's not one of them. And that's not one of them. Yeah, it's not one of them. No, I've got a couple of Western Marylands out there, so that's probably one of them. Let's see here. No, that's not those. Yep, that's one. That's one. That's one. There's another Western Maryland. And yep, here we go. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Make it loose. Well, that works. That's nothing. There's the next one down the line. Those up. Those back. Put that back in before I knock my knees on it again. Still picking on my posts, huh? That's right. I'll be about another 15, 20 minutes here. I'm going to stop with this portion, and we'll just go into just doing what I normally do. So first thing is though, I got to go down the other end here, and then take that one and take that one with me. Let's go there. No. Not sure what its issue is. All right, that's good. You know what? This is getting ridiculous, guys. Cut it with a freaking post, all right? If not, I'm gonna just kill the stream off here and I'm gonna delete it. It's getting ridiculous. The posts are done, guys. That's an old joke. Let it go. And if you can't let it go, freaking leave. I'm trying to do something here. I'm trying to show how this thing's working, and the only thing you guys do is sit there and talk about the freaking posts. Okay. Well, now I know what I've got going on with that. Not quite sure what happened there. Dang, okay. Well, that would explain the short circuit when the other train went down the track that I didn't know about. All right. Actually, I think at this point, I'm pretty much done with this session. Because the next part of this is going to get a little bit tricky, and I'm not ready to do that yet. I know it works. I'm just not ready to fool with it. At the moment. So, outside of a couple of snafus, and the fact that I had a railing come off of the SD40 that the Wabash locomotive ran over and caused a short circuit, other than that, I think I call victory, or semi-victory. I think it's time to drop this thing down here. Get it somewhat back to normalcy, whatever that is. That didn't work. Probably better to go in that direction. Might have to take that off of there, but we'll see. Yeah, Jerry, from here, from where I'm sitting, which I had the camera pointed down the backside of the layout, what will become the non-visual, the non-visible portion. That's where the video camera, or that's where the camera was. It was on that non-visible portion, and looking down the back end, and then it goes on the opposite end of the layout, or the opposite end of the room. There's an 8-foot section where it turns and then comes back to where I'm sitting. So, and it's kind of hard to show on this camera because I've got a short tether. It's one of the things that, I was talking to, I guess it's Ron, the Real Wicked Canadian. Oops, sorry. I'm actually going to eventually move my main computer that has JMRI on it, that has all the inventory. Eventually, I'm going to be moving that down to the dispatcher station, which is next to that 8-foot runaround, which also is where the passenger station will be. There is a small classification yard down there and a passenger terminal. Well, what will be. Obviously, nothing's been scenic on this thing yet. I'm still testing out the track and making sure that everything is going to work the way I want it to before I get to that. That's what I was kind of mentioning earlier, was, I'm to the point now where I've run the layout, rolling stock wise and locomotive wise as of tonight. And I'm pretty happy with how things are working out. I do have a couple of spots that I'm going to have to look into still. There's one section. Excuse me a minute. Sorry, it gets a little bit warm running back and forth all the time. um, but I've got to get some. I'm either going to get myself some Caboose Industries ground throws, which is the way I think I'm going to go for some of the switches. For the ones that are on the main line, those will be electrified, so that I can, if I'm down here by myself and I just want to run some stuff, I can do that from the dispatcher's station and not have to worry about getting up, switching switches, sitting back down, and doing all that stuff. It'll be pretty much where I can do it. I keep kicking the leg of the daggone camera stand here. Um, but yeah, and I don't, like I said, I don't have everything I want yet. But as far as operation wise, I'm pretty close to where I want to be. Like I said, there's just a couple of snags and a couple of things that I have to look into. I've got a three-way switch that is the lead into the Beauville yard. And for whatever reason, I've found out now that I've got a couple different pieces of equipment that do not like the right hand diverging route on that switch. I think it's possibly out of gauge. I've got to go back and take a look at it and see if I can figure out what's going on with that. So, but it's getting there. Actually, I've got a mix of turnouts. Some of them are Pico, most are Atlas. The three-way switch is actually an old model power unit that I've had for, geez, that thing's been around. that thing has been around. I mean, this is the third iteration of this layout that one's been on. So, and like I said, most of my turnouts are Atlas. Like I said, I do have the two Pico, the four Pico turnouts are actually the curved turnouts. Those I've got to definitely get. And here's a good one. Here's a good one to throw out there, and I think I may have mentioned it in vlog, maybe vlog 21 or 22. I know the industry standard or the model railroading standard for years for switch machines was tortoise. Has anybody messed with the blue points or is everybody really stuck with? Has everybody really just stuck with the tortoises? Actually, Jerry, I've had a couple switches that I've had to go back and modify because they stopped passing electric. When I was, let's see, what was it, back in February time frame, I had four of them that I had to go in and rewire because the electrical contacts went bad. I actually ended up having to jumper wire underneath the rails to keep the power going through them. So yeah, Jerry, they will go bad, and you do have to. You should maintain them just like anything else. It's one of those things. It's a moving part, so they are going to have to be adjusted. They're going to have to be tinkered with every so often. But it really just depends on what you got. And like I said, for years, I mean, most of the stuff on this layout is Atlas. And knock on wood, I've had very, very few issues with the Atlas switches. I picked up a few older AHM switches. Those were the ones I had issues with. So I replaced one or two of them, but I needed a few others. So I had to go in and just wire them up to where they passed electric. And ever since then, they've been fine. I may have to take a look into that Santa Fe, Bob. Like I said, I know the tortoises have been out there for ages, and I know that everybody uses them. But I had just recently heard about Blue Point and was wondering what the heck is a Blue Point switch. Never heard of it, and was just wondering if anybody had any experience with them. Going to servos. All right, Tom. I'm not sure. Not sure what a servo. It's all right, Rodney. I mean, I get it, but I mean, like I said, it was funny the first couple of times around, man. I apologize for going off, but enough's enough, man. We got to let it go. The other question too. I mean, hey guys, I know it's come up once or twice, but if you're mounting the tortoise or the blue points or whatever else you're using under the layout, are you permanently mounting them or are you mounting them with Velcro? Because I've heard some folks doing that too. And I'm not so sure about that. I mean, if it works, that's fine. But I know a lot of people just, mount them using wood screws to the bottom of the layout. So I mean, I'm not sure how that works if anybody has actually done how anybody has actually messed with them. The other concern that I've got though is I've got, let's see, and then I'm going to have another quarter or eighth of an inch of something underneath of that before I even get to track level. So I'm not even sure if I'm not sure how long that pin is that goes into the switch to move the points is going to be. If it's going to be enough, if I'm going to have to buy other wire and do it to get it to make the connection. Yeah, Dwayne. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it sounds like it's easy for making the adjustments, but for long term, I just don't see how Velcro is going to hold up. Let's see, it was James. Blue points apparently are a lot like the tortoises. It's the same type of concept. It's a motor underneath the layout that moves the points. But yeah, I'm not sure if they were the same as the blue servo. I have no idea what that is. Like I said, I just was on where was I? Was searching around the other day and saw Blue Point, and I'd heard about Blue Point, but I wasn't sure who makes them. What's going on, Sparky? So yeah, well, the issue that I've got, Rodney, is especially with the curved turnouts, is that I can't use a normal, I guess for lack of a better term, a surface mount switch machine. There's not enough room there to actually wire it up. Um, yeah, that's what I figured. That figured, Rick. Yeah, that's probably the best way to go. That way they're not going anywhere. Blue Point I saw have no electrical connection to the throw rod. Okay. So unlike the tortoises, if you go ahead and decide to put signaling and all that stuff up, you'd have to go a different route with the Blue Point. So it's probably better just to stick with the tortoises then, because they'll do the power routing, they'll do the signals and things of that nature. I got you. Good point. Well, Tom, that like I was saying, I think for the yards and for the industrial area, I think I am going to use ground throws. The problem with the four curve turnouts, and I don't know how it's going to work down there yet because I haven't built the second level. Um, and then here's another thing that I'm hoping to get now that I'm done with my outdoor work, hopefully, for the most part. And that's cool, Rodney. I mean, everybody's involved. You take a look at what I'm doing here. I mean, I don't follow any norm. I'm just trying to get some ideas as to what I'm looking at. But the four curve turnouts that go into the passenger station, there is a possibility that they could be partially covered or partially hidden, which probably is a big no-no. Although I've done it before, knock on wood, had very little issue, but there's a possibility that they could be somewhat hidden underneath of the city level. And if that's the case, that's going to be awfully hard to go ahead and do ground throw underneath of there. Um, Not to mention the fact that if I wanted to just do passenger switching from the dispatcher's panel, and actually, if somebody was down here that's not a model railroader, if I had automatic points or switch machines that move those points, I could switch between the two tracks on either side, the two north or the two south. Like I said, Tom, I mean it's doable. I mean there's no question that ground throws are would be doable for those curved turnouts. It's just the fact that where they could possibly end up, it may not be as easy to get to, and that's the reason why I was looking at using, either the tortoises or the blue points. Um, and from what it sounds like, I'm probably better off just going ahead and spending the extra couple bucks and getting the tortoises down the road. I'm not there yet, but it's something that I have to consider because once I go ahead and start building that city level down there, I'm not going to be daggone it kicking the daggone tripod. Um, well, see the thing is too, Tom, where they're sitting down there, it's not so much the they're not where they're right on top of one another to where you'd have to have a long wire going from, say one side of the track to be able to throw them. It's just the fact that with the like an Atlas switch machine, a surface mount switch machine, because it's a curved turnout, they just don't fit. So that's the issue. Like I said, I mean, I can put the ground throws there. That's not a problem. But eventually, I'd like to have electric throws. I want to have electric turnouts on all the main line, and that way, if I like I said, if I want to come down here and just run stuff, I can do that without too much trouble. Like I said, I'm just thinking ahead, and I also know that if I do decide eventually to go DCC, Tortoise is already set up for that. You can also connect them to JMRI, the whole 9 yards. So that's kind of like why I was sitting there and thinking about it. You know, yeah, I know about the Atlas relays. I've seen those before, Rodney, and those intrigued me years ago, as to be able to control signals. I don't know if you can still get a hold of them or not. I'm going to have to start looking for those as well, at some point, because I'm going to have a lot of signaling that's going to have to happen on this railroad. I mean there's even though it's a two-track main line, when you've got the northbound freight or the southbound freight, the locals, and you have a north or southbound passenger train that's a through train, it has to be able to get around them. So you're going to have some sort of signaling on a couple different spots on this layout to be able to control the engineers as they're going through, because they are going to have to switch from their normal side to the opposite track, which is one of the reasons why this thing is done this way. I mean, if I would have done single track main, this would have been a nightmare. I love the 2-track main because I can, like I said, I can come down here, flip a switch, watch 2 trains run around the track. Unlike tonight, for the first half hour of this, where I was actually doing quasi operations, I ran what, 6 different trains across the railroad. So, couple Atlas turnout to control 3-wire system. Yeah, I mean that's what I've been using for years, Sparky. But like I said, with those Pico curve turnouts, you can't use an Atlas. You can't use the Atlas controllers. They won't work. Yeah, that's one of the things that I need to do, Rodney. And that's one of the reasons why too. When I went through and wired up the layout, none of the switch machine or none of the turnouts are soldered. Um, I none of the turnouts are soldered for that particular reason. I need to drill the holes for the throw rods. You know, okay, I got you, Sparky. Yeah, I mean it's like I say, if it weren't for those curved turnouts, I would have just gone ahead and done nothing but switch machines all over. But that one there, those are a little bit ticklish. You know, that's the easiest way to put it. They're just a little ticklish. But I do plan, like I was saying a little bit ago, I do plan on using Caboose Industries ground throws for the industrial area and for the yard, and probably for the leads um, into the industrial areas as well. Even though they're on the main line, it just makes more sense to if you're the train crew going down there and making the switch moves. It's a little bit more prototypical to have to throw a ground throw to go ahead and move the train across the switch. If you're backing into one of the industries down here, to which I've got plenty of industries right now. I'd like to add a few more, but that'll come at some point. Yeah, I've actually. The wild thing is I actually saw somebody's layout a while back. This was fascinating to me. They actually had tortoises surface mounted on top of the. This was in a staging yard. They actually had them mounted on top and throwing the throw rods, across multiple tracks. That one blew my mind. I'm like, why did you mount them up there? But I think the reason why is because it was a staging yard, and if they had a problem, it was right there. No, I agree. I agree, Sparky. Santa Fe Bob Walters has their own switch machines that can be connected together. Should work with your DC, JMRI, DCC, horizontal, vertical mount. Panel board switches are cool too. Yeah, and like I said, for the dispatcher's panel for when this thing is in show mode, when the trains are just running around. I've got the 4 passenger trains that are stopped underneath of Beauville right now, or what will be the town of Beauville. And if I'm down here in show mode, I can switch between those. And because that area is going to be somewhat hidden as well, it's going to mess with people's minds when a different train all of a sudden pops out from underneath. It's like, wait a minute, where'd that come from? Yeah, that's the other thing too, Rodney, is that you don't solder the switches. I've never been a fan of soldering rail on switches because of the fact that they go bad. They're a moving piece. I mean, it's just like your locomotives. And the more stuff that you run across them, the more locomotives, the more cars, the more rolling stock you roll across the switch. It's going to go bad. It's going to get out of gauge and it's going to go bad. I mean, and I think that's what's wrong with that 3-way switch that's down there going into the yard. I think that is just a little out of gauge, but I don't know. I haven't. I was messing with it at one point, thought I had it, and then the other night I went to run my RDC across it. The front made it across. The rear jumped as soon as it hit it, and I'm like, daggone it, here we go again. I thought I had this fixed. So I got to go back down there and play with it again. I'll get it because I'm really not looking forward to the possibility of having to take that out because there's very little space down there for getting switches in, and that's the reason why that three-way is there to begin with. Um, because there just wasn't enough room from the bridges to where that yard is to be able to put in, a left, a right, a left, a right, and then to have the left going into the yard. uh, I don't know if hand laid switches will last longer or not. I would tend to think that hand laid you're introducing something else into the mix. Don't get me wrong, hand laying track is obviously the ultimate. Scratch building your track. I mean, that would drive me crazy. I mean, I can't imagine, trying to do what I've done down here in the last 6 months if I had to hand lay everything. Um, I mean, a lot of this is flex track too. I mean, there is some sectional, but a lot of it is flex. But to me, a hand laid switch. I've seen them done. Um, And I think if they're done right, yeah, they'll probably last. They'll probably last any bit as long as a manufactured one. Will they outlast the manufactured one? I don't know. I've never messed with them, to be honest. Yeah, you can hide a tortoise. That's true, Brick. That's true. That's true. And yes, Sparky, yes, we're all moving, and yes, we are going to break down. Unfortunately, it's a matter of time. Gents, I'll gotta step away for just a second as I get stuck to the chair. Ah, sorry. Okay. Now, where were we? Dwayne, why? What was the why for? What did I miss? what, what did I miss, Dwayne? Was that a question? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sitting here chatting away, trying to catch some of the stuff through here, but yeah, I mean it's typo. Okay. Oh man. You know what? I'm gonna lose that. But like I said, I'm man, this thing has been unreal, and once I really start now that I feel fairly comfortable, I can start putting this stuff down. It's gonna get even better. Hey, what's going on, Grandpa? Hey, Dustin. No, you're not late, man. These things usually go for 2 hours, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it. Oh, yeah, you guys that just jumped in, you missed the half-hour operating session. It went from 8 to 8:30. Um, but I did a quasi operating session on here. I think I ran about 6 or 8 trains across the railroad. Of course, the first two had issues, but then after that, we were in halfway decent shape until the end. I found out that one of my locomotives lost a handrail, and when the next train went across, it shorted out and it shut the power pack down. It didn't kill it, but it shut the power pack down. But at that point, it was like, you know what? It's time to stop this. Time to go to something else. Grandpa's saying hi to everybody. So, but other than that, any other questions? I know I was just talking about, the switches and the things that I've got coming up on this thing. Barn full of trains. Oh man. Hey, Barn. Oh, I'm sorry. I just thought that Grandpa was making a. I'm sorry. What's going on, barn full of trains? Welcome aboard, newbie. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Hey, question, folks. Has anybody had a chance to check out the virtual rail fan that I had put up the other week with the different areas and all? I know this past week. I forgot what day it was. On one of the cameras, they actually caught a 38 axle Schnabel car that was headed to, I think it was headed to Utah. That was freaking incredible. They actually had a high rail car before the train. They had I think it was one or two locomotives, an idler car, the Schnabel car, another idler car, and then they actually had a caboose with it, which was interesting. I never, I didn't catch. I guess they do that with the Schnabels, but that was cool to see a caboose with that. Yeah, that was incredible, Dwayne. That was somebody. I was watching Santa Fe Junction, and somebody said, "Hey, if you guys are interested, they're getting ready to catch the Schnabel car. It's getting ready to go across this camera." And I'm like, "Oh, what?" I think it was Barstow. I think it was Barstow, California, is where they caught it. That was freaking. That was awesome. That was huge. 38 axles. That was just. I'm sitting there. I was looking at that thing. And I'm like, there's no way I'd ever be able to run anything that big on this layout. you talk about needing special permission to run something across the railroad. That would be like, no. which is something else I just happen to think of. It's possible, Jerry. It was either that, or I think that was a container of nuclear waste. It may have been a security car. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and take another look at it. But that was wild. But here's a question for those who actually have railroads that are either completed or at least running. If you do an operating session, have you considered running, I guess, what would be considered a special train across your railroad? In other words, something that's oversized, overweight. Don't talk about me like that. But oversized, overweight, needs special movements or things of that nature. Has anybody considered doing that on their railroad? I know years ago, I'm trying to think of his name. Oh, why is his name escaping me? He worked for Model Railroader for a while. He has a HO gauge layout called the Ohio Southern. And he talked about special movements or special load movements. And I was like, that's really neat. So it was one of those things that it's not something that you throw in every operating session, but it's one of those little things. Jim Hediger, thank you, Santa Fe Bob. Boy, he's Johnny on the spot. I'm not going to go there, Sparky. I'm special too, but no, in all seriousness, has anybody ever considered, doing something like that, throwing in a special freight run like a Schnabel car or a transformer car, with a low boy, or even something else that I happened to catch. I think it was going through the Ohio on the virtual rail fan was um, a rail car. The rail train. Where you've got multiple flat cars with the stakes that hold the welded rail together. For when they're actually relaying that new rail instead of the sectional rail, they're laying these one piece rail uh, things. The rail is already welded to whatever length it is. Obviously, something like that's a special movement across the railroad. That's something else to think about. Of course, I don't think it would work too well on mine with a 22-inch radius that I'm running. That would probably be a little too tight. It would probably knock things off the off the track. But no, like I was saying, something like a transformer or a long I beam, Doritos car. There we go. Right. Oh boy. Tom and his Doritos. uh, Caterpillar lows, I would imagine that those would be considered probably a special movement, depending on what the size of it is. I mean, if it's a normal bulldozer, probably not so much. But if it was like a mine dump truck, or one of the big loaders, exactly, Dwayne, exactly, something that's beyond the normal. Not a normal flat car or a box car or something like that. Just something different, to where it needs special permission to go across the railroad, and whoever's running that train, they're going to have a speed restriction, and so on and so forth, to make sure that they're going to be able to pass over the railroad without causing a problem. You know, that's cold beers and a G scale gondola. could be, could be, Dustin. I like the way this guy thinks. But yeah, Dwayne, exactly. The heavy and wide loads, it's the railroads move stuff like that from time to time, like that Schnabel car. It's not something that happens all the time, and it's one of the things that Jim Hediger mentioned. He said it's not something that you want to that you want to that you want to do every operating session, but just something to go ahead and break up the monotony of just moving trains across the layout. Special water towers. Yeah, okay. There's a good one. For anybody who models the modern era, the windmill trains, which I've seen quite a few of those going across the Santa Fe Junction. They had a blade train go through. What was it, the week before last? That was interesting to see. I mean, here it is. You've got this long freaking blade going across like four or five flat cars. And obviously, they've got a speed restriction. They can't go fast. And the funny thing of it is I saw that blade train, and this week they actually had a tower car train go through. Didn't have the towers on it, but it was the cars were set up for the towers. Ouch. Yeah. Steve, I saw that iguana exiting in Florida. Yeah, well, I'm indoors. I hope there isn't an iguana down here. Steam excursions. That's one of the other things that's going to be, what those are something I consider white flag extra, WFEs. And I'm going to have a few of those that'll pop up from time to time, especially once I get that Gem Brass locomotive back up and running. Um, it's that's going to be another thing. Go ahead and have a here comes a fan trip. you know, um, with the era that I'm modeling, and I know there's no Sparky was kind of hitting me up on this one the other day, saying because I said I don't like Amtrak. Well, the reason why I don't like Amtrak is because of the fact that it was a government run. It's a government run agency, number one. But the the way I'm doing things, I'm still old school. I've got the Seaboard, the Pennsylvania, the Wabash. I've got the Baltimore and Ohio. I've got the old style passenger cars. I don't have those new lightweight cars that Amtrak pulls, and that's because it's a different era. In the modern era, you'd have the Amtrak trains, but you could still have a well. And the Union Pacific does it. They've got the steam trains that go out every once in a while. Club layouts have many dinosaurs. Yeah, well, I'm sure they do. I was a part of a club layout in Charleston, South Carolina for a while. That was until I left the service and came home. And then I was a part of one up here for a little bit, but they went under. I haven't heard anything from them in years. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I know that there's a couple of club layouts. That's one of the things that maybe eventually I might do as well. Once I get further along, there is a club up here that goes to the fairgrounds every once in a while when we have the train show meets up there. The Four Counties Society of Model Engineers, and they've got an outstanding modular layout that I'd love to be able to, at some point be able to catch up with. I mean, it's about a 45-minute drive for me to get out there to see them when they're on site, at their home base. But I'd love to be able to mess around with something like that. Just something different. I've got to get this thing up and running first. And it's close, but then you've got all the scenery and all the other stuff yet. But you know, it was just one of those things that just happened to pop into my mind, especially with that Schnabel car this week. It's like, yeah, I can't imagine what kind of paperwork that entailed to get that thing across the line. that was insanity. Cool, Jerry. Hey, Jerry, I probably asked this before, but where are you at? Because I did the things go in one ear and out the other, man. It's old age. But the video that all right. Why did the chat just stop? Am I having issues again? Oh, okay. All right. Oh man, yeah, that's another place that I want to hit eventually. Is the old trolley museum downtown? I haven't been down there yet. I've been down to the obviously I've been down to the being a railroad museum quite a few times. Um, but I definitely want to hit the trolley museum eventually. The other reason being is if I'm not mistaken, I thought that there was or that was a part of the old Maryland and Pennsylvania Railroad. If I'm remembering correctly, of course, like I said, my mind is mush. Oh man, thanks, Grandpa. At least somebody thinks I am. Uh-huh. Well, shoot, Jerry, you and Rick are pretty close, I think. Thanks, Dwayne. Cool. Yeah, I definitely need to get down there. I think I mentioned it before that one of the houses that I used to live in actually overlooked the old Maryland and Pennsylvania right away at it's now called the Iron Horse, McFalls Iron Horse Cafe. Oh, that's cool, Jerry. I didn't know there was a train derailed over it. That sucks. I know quite a few years ago that Baltimore and Ohio Railroad Museum got hit when we had a blizzard and it took down part of the roof and took out a few of the locomotives as well that were inside. Um, no, Jerry, where I was talking about is off of Cromwell Bridge, Lock Raven, Cromwell Bridge area. Used to be Sanders, yes, and that used to be the passenger stop of the mail and the post office for the railroad. McFall's Iron Horse or the Sanders Inn. I've been inside the Iron Horse a couple times. The food isn't bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. But it is neat to see them. You know, they've got a lot of old railroad memorabilia up on the walls down there. It's pretty cool. That's right. I forgot, Joe. You're in Parkville. You're not too far from me. Yeah, Jerry. I'll have to. Yeah, it's Cromwell Bridge, and like I said, Lock Raven Boulevard, right off of 695, right off the Beltway. If you go north on Cromwell Bridge, you pass by that old post office passenger station, which is now a restaurant, and it's really cool back there. I mean, Baltimore Gas and Electric uses that right away now for high tension lines for electric. So the right of way is still there, but it's no longer a railroad, unfortunately. It's long since gone. Why is not? So no, the light rail line is actually the old NCR. That's the old North Central that the MDTA is or the that MTA is using now. That's actually off of, and I always get this wrong. That's actually on the backside of what is now Martin Marietta's slate mine, and that is Beaver Dam Road. Um, Beaver Dam Road takes you past the old NCR. Well, a portion of it, anyways. Yeah, I know that, Joe. I know that station's still there too. I think somebody else has been working on. I know that when I was a part, and I'm still a part of the Maryland and Pennsylvania Preservation Society. Well, I'm not a part of them, but I was following them. I think somebody within that group, I think, may have bought that building to restore it to what it used to be when the Maryland and Pennsylvania had it. So that would be cool because that's been there a long time. And what's really neat about that little area where that pizza place used to be is right across the street from that was Steel Tin Can. That's where they used to make tin can. Well, obviously they made tin cans. Hey, Kenward, welcome aboard, sir. I know that there's been some other people that popped in. I'm sorry, I just happened to be watching that. And Seeing that Cameron just popped in, he's another one of our newbies. Welcome aboard. Yeah, I know, Joe. I mean, I love to see old stuff like the old stations and things like that be preserved, especially when you've got something that's so deep in history, like the Maryland and Pennsylvania was. It's just a darn shame that they couldn't keep up. And there's very little of the Maryland and Pennsylvania left. If you go up into York, Pennsylvania, there's a couple of spots up there where the Maryland and Pennsylvania, which is now part of the Genesee and Wyoming Corporation, still has some trackage through York. They still do some movements, and unfortunately, a few years ago, I was up there for a meeting with my team from work, and I actually caught a picture of a Maryland and Pennsylvania Railroad locomotive crossing right behind the hotel that we were staying in. It happened to be right across the street from the tracks, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. It was still in the old Maryland and Pennsylvania colors. You could see what they did is they put the Genesee and Wyoming reporting marks, and then right underneath of it, they had M&P below that. So that was kind of cool. So it was like a heritage unit for them. So that was kind of nice. That was neat to see. But yeah, I'm a history buff. I love seeing stuff like that get saved. I mean, it's just it's a darn shame with all the growth and everything else that we've had, and some of that stuff just it gets torn down. It goes by the wayside. Unless you get some sort of a historical society or somebody else like that involved in it, it just goes away. There used to be, well, Pollock Johnny's used to be downtown, and then they expanded when I was growing up. They actually had a couple of places. They had one off of Route 40, and oh, what the heck is the name of that road? Well, it was Pulaski Highway, and tag on it. And I go down that way every Friday. You think I'd remember what it was? Anywho, they closed that a long time ago, Tom. I think that they're gone, unfortunately. Freight station in Cockeysville is still there too. I've heard that there's a freight station in Cockeysville. I'm not sure exactly where that's at. Welcome aboard, Nathan. Good to see you, buddy. Jerry, I don't think trains pass that station anymore. I think that's all been gone. I think that's all since gone, man. Unfortunately, but I think I know what you're talking about, though, Joe. I think, I think, but yeah, it's unfortunate. Which really, and it's funny because I was just up there today. The Home Depot in Cockeysville, which is off Industrial Lane, when you go up Beaver Dam Road, which, like I said, is on that outside edge. The light rail tracks that used to be a part of the NCR still have the switches installed that used to take you into Martin Marietta, what is now Martin Marietta's slate mine. There's always been a slate mine there. It was owned by one company, then it went over to Genstar, and now it's owned by Martin Marietta. Right off York Road. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, I think I know. I think I know what you're talking about. I think I know where you're talking. Railroad Ave. Yep. Okay. I got you. I got you, Joe. I got you. Yeah, I've been up that way a couple times. Right, right up there by Andy Nelson's, the barbecue place. Sorry, folks. This chair doesn't work well on the rug. Number one, and it's not very comfortable either. I'm not used to sitting in this one. Oh man, that's cool. That's cool. Ah, oh well. Why Why does this keep flashing? Phew. Oh man, I tell you what, this stream. I was sorry, guys. I was looking at something here to see if I could see what was going on, but that's okay. I don't need that up there. Nice. That would be. See, that's one of the things that I actually haven't put on here yet. Obviously, I've got the passenger station, which is going to that'll resemble Union Station downtown in downtown Baltimore. Um, but I'm going to be putting another passenger station or some sort of a station out here by Newtown. Hey, PNN, evening. And you're right, Jerry. That the Timonium Train Show is really nice, and I'm not sure if anybody caught this one. The other day, and I'm not sure if it was Rodney that shared it, or if it was somebody else within the Maryland area model railroaders. Um, the guy that runs it now, that took over from Howard Zane, actually sent out a an inquiry to, I guess, the folks that he had on email, and was wondering what their thoughts were about um, going ahead and actually having the show in October. And what I found interesting was 39% of the people are ready to go. They are ready to get out there and get back to doing a train show, because there hasn't been one since Super Bowl weekend. And there's usually at least one or two. Well, actually, there would have been one, I think, last month or this month, earlier this month, and I think there's like another one in midsummer or late summer, and then they've got the one that comes up in October, November time frame. Night, Sparky. Take it easy, buddy. And they were talking about, if there was going to be enough interest to go ahead and have the vendors and so on and so forth. And of course, a lot of it's going to depend on who all wants to be there. Um, and I just thought it was interesting. I mean, to me, I would do it safely. I would do it because of the showstopper. Obviously, you're not just going to go waltzing in there like we've done in the past. It's going to have to be. I think it's going to have to be somewhat scaled back, or they're going to have to let people rotate through. But I think for normalcy, I think it'd be a great thing. I really do. Is it going to be the way it used to be? No, I don't think so. Are all those layouts going to show up again? I don't know. It would be nice, but I don't know how many are really going to be ready to do that again. You know, but we'll see. We'll see. I tell you what, the Timonium Train Show is. I mean it's nice. I mean there's no question. Yeah, Jerry. Like I said, I don't know. Like I said, I think it really depends. I don't know. We don't know what things are going to look like by October. We really don't. Welcome back, Rodney. But I this is where we're at. I mean, we got to be safe. We got to and that's one of the things that I guess really, and I'm going to go off on a tangent here, folks, but one of the things that really burns me up about this whole thing is common sense. Really? I mean, that's really what it boils down to. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's really what it boils down to. And unfortunately, we're in a society that just doesn't seem to have a whole lot of that. But it is what it is. I mean, we just have to deal with it. But it's yeah. Like I said, Jerry, I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna. We don't know how it's gonna look. Yeah, I mean, you may not get the vendors, and you may not get the railroads. You may not get the clubs that come in anymore, which would be a darn shame. Because I think a lot of people. I mean, I'm one of these people. I go there. I've got a couple of things that I'm looking for when I go to those shows. I know I need this, or I know I'm looking for this, or I like to find that type of deal. But once I get finished looking, I'm over on the other side watching the trains. You know, that's the thing. That's my thing. I might spend a half an hour running through or walking through all the tables looking and seeing what's going on. And then after that, I'm over on the other side watching the clubs and talking to the guys in the club layouts. That's it. I hear you, Joe. I don't. That's why I said I'm gonna. I'm done. We're done with that. Moving on. I didn't, but it was just one of those things. We were talking railroads and we were talking about what's coming, and I'm really hoping to a point that they do open it up, though, Jerry. That way, I mean, at least even if I don't spend the time that I would normally spend there, then that's it. That is what it is. But like I said, we just gotta wait and see. On to my other hobby with the bowling, I have no idea what's going to happen with that either. I mean, here it is. I had a 16-team league, 4 people to a team. We ended up our last night of actual doing anything of all things was March 13th. Friday, March 13th was the last night we actually threw a ball, and I have no idea when we're going to be able to do it again. Here it is. Last Friday, we went ahead and gave all the prize money out a week behind, but that's what we had to do. And we actually ended up having to meet in the parking lot because they wouldn't open the bowling alley for us to do it. But that's another topic. I'm moving on. I'm moving on. Oh, you're asking Jerry if he's checked out the Hatcheby loop cams. That's how this whole thing with me with virtual rail fitting got started. Yeah, Grandpa, I'm not sure if you caught it or not, but we were talking about it earlier. The Schnabel car that went through Barstow. That was cool. Like I said, that was a topic that was a little bit further back, but hey, Michael, how you doing? Welcome aboard. Oh man, but yeah, I mean that's the neat thing. That's one of the things that I might do sometime in the near future. I've got a spot that I used to go and watch trains when I was trying to take my mind off of what was happening with my family years ago. Um, uh, yeah, really, Bob, that would be a problem. Um, well, good, Mike. I'm glad. Okay. Uh, let's see, where was I? I was talking about see, this is the reason why it's sidetracked. My mind just went sideways. Um, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, it was the Barstow. I think it was Barstow, Jerry, that it went through. Um, Anywho, that's where I was. Anyway, there is a spot when my family years ago, we had a lot of I had a lot of issues. In a span of 5 years, I lost three grandparents and my father. Two to cancer, and one to Alzheimer's, and one to old age. Um, anyway, when things were going when things weren't going well, and unfortunately, my youngest brother caught the brunt of it all. Um, he Him and I would we took one of his buddies and we went down to, and I'm sure that some of the folks that live in the area, I know Joe might be familiar with it. Tom might know what I'm talking about. But there is a spot where the CSX now crosses over a road called Ebenezer Road, just west of Route 40, and it's an at grade crossing. And one of the things that goes through there, and of course, I didn't realize it until, I don't know, probably a year, maybe a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit more than that. The Tropicana juice train runs from Florida up to New Jersey across that link. And one of these days, I want to get down to that crossing again and just sit there and watch and wait for a train. I haven't done rail fanning in probably what 30 years, but I'd love to get back down there and just watch the trains through there. Yeah, this is going to be a little bit south of Perryville. It's going to be fairly bit farther south than Perryville. It's actually in an area called White Marsh. Holly Tree is another place. Never been there. I'm not sure where that's at. Yeah, Ebenezer Road and Route 7 is it's a neat spot. Like I said, it's an at grade crossing, and it's funny because that that railroad actually passes behind the bowling alley that I bowl at. So me and one of the other guys who's in the S gauge, and he was on one of my vlogs earlier this year, Big John. He's in the S gauge. Him and I will, when we get done with bowling, we have a little chit chat about how the night went, because I'm the president, and he this year he was the secretary treasurer. So we chit chat about how the night went and how things were going, and we'd sit there, and of course, no sooner did we walk out of the bowling alley, we'd be over by our vehicles, and there goes a train. It's like, oh, cool. Hey, humanity. So, I want to get back out and do some rail fanning. It's something that I haven't done in a long time. And watching these virtual rail fan cams, it's just bit me. I am about 25 minutes west of Ebenezer. No, humanity, I'm not starting over. Rewind. There is a replay function. It was actually kind of fascinating this afternoon too when I went up to the Home Depot. Like I said, I got to see two of the light rails. That's an unusual thing. I usually only see maybe one if I see that many, and then tonight I got two. Hey, Dave. Oh man. Yeah, and it's funny. I'm really not that far away from Joe. Like I said, Joe's over in Parkville. I'm over in Timonium or Towson, not Timonium, Towson. I used to be in Timonium. Now I'm in Towson. Yeah, you're right, Dave. There's no question. Virtual rail fan is cool, but nothing beats watching those trains in person. Yeah, I'm in Towson, Jerry, just outside the Beltway. But let's see what else we got going on here. Absolutely, Joe. It's even sitting in the parking lot of the bowling alley at night, and when those trains pound through there, especially the locomotives, you feel the ground. You can definitely feel the ground shake. There's no question. I mean, that's one thing that you don't get from a camera. It's unfortunate, but that's the one thing. Unless of course you sit there and you start doing one of these numbers. You know, you can't get the effect of those trains going across the tracks. One of the things that really gets me with SFJ though is the fact that one curve right out in front of the the drywall place, which is where um, which is where they've got the camera. That is a very tight corner through there, and they've had some big trains going through that corner, and when they do, the flanges are just screaming against the rails. I've heard of DJ's trains. In fact, I think he's actually been in here once or twice. Are you hinting at something there, Grandpa? That's one of those things too. That's a little off topic, but that's one of the things I'd love to do one of these days when they start back up again, and that's to go see it. I've been to a NASCAR race, and that's an interesting thing. I mean, when you're in the stands, I went to Richmond quite a few times, but to hear those cars when they pass you, and the horsepower, it's just unbelievable. I've watched the NHRA for years. I'm a big John Force fan, but I love to get there. Hey, Georgia Sunbelt, welcome aboard, Anthony. Yeah, you, Grandpa. I didn't think we were ready for that yet. And Rick's not even in here either, I don't think. Oh, Hagerstown opened back up. For what, Rodney? That's another neat place too. I went to about a year and a half ago. I went up to Cumberland. Boy, that's an interesting place. I didn't get a chance to. Oh, the Hagerstown Speedway. Sorry, I should have. Yeah, sorry, Rodney. I should have known. I should have known. um, but anyway, yeah, I went up to Cumberland a few years ago. And we went. My wife and I actually toured a couple places up there, railroad related. That was really neat to be able to walk across the tracks and all up there. That's not nice, Dustin. I hate it when it does that. It's not nice when the internet glitches. Of course, then again, I'm surprised that this stream has lasted this long. This laptop that I'm streaming off of has had issues for like the last 2-3 weeks. It seems to work, and then it stops, and it works, and it stops, and I cleaned it up and everything else, and it's still. What's really funny is the camera control from Logitech is in the background, and I keep seeing it flash up every once in a while, and I'm like, what is going on with this thing? Yeah, Rick will come back when the stream's over. Yeah. He probably had to get his kiddos to bed. It's either that or number 3 made an appearance, or is in the process of making an appearance. Hey, Rodney, Hagerstown. That's a dirt track, isn't it, or is that pavement? Do 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 do. Maybe I ought to just look at the clay dirt. Okay, that's funny. I just saw I just saw that pop up here on the phone before it popped up on the StreamYard chat. It's amazing the delay there. All right, cool. Cool. Half mile. All right, gotcha. I may have to make it a point to maybe swing out there one of these years or one of these days. Like I said, I haven't been to a racetrack. The last one I went to was Richmond, and that was 8-9 years ago, I think. That was the last time I went to a race. Man, it's a darn shame too, because the seats that I used to sit in with my brother and his father-in-law down in Richmond on the backstretch are no longer there. They took them all out. That was a neat spot to sit, man. You could see the whole track from back here. That was cool. You got to see everything that was going on. Of course, his seats down in Richmond for the Xfinity races were a bit better. They were on the front stretch, right next to the start finish line, so you were looking into the pits. Man, that was awesome. That was awesome. But like I said, it's been years since I've been to a race, and the way things are with that, I don't know if I'll ever go back. I don't know. I've pretty much given up on a lot of the professional stuff, with the exception of the NHRA. The NASCAR is on a real thin leash at the moment. Another story, another time. But a little off topic. It's all right. It's just a little off. Oh man. Well, unfortunately, tomorrow is Monday. Back to work. Gotta make the cash to be able to keep the lights on and the railroad moving. we all know how that is. Did I lose some people here? Or is this thing just lagging again? What the heck is going on over here? Okay, there we go. All right, whatever. Yeah, Dustin, I agree. I don't like Mondays either. Followed by Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The only day that gets me going is Friday. All right, there, Joe. Thanks for popping in. I'm actually going to go ahead and probably shut this thing down. We've been going for 2 hours. That's long enough. it's long enough. Oh man. Uh, oh. So you know what? To the 11 folks that are still here, yeah, I've been here at it 2 hours, Georgia. Uh huh. Yeah. I hear you, Dustin. Take it easy, guys. You all know the deal. Wait for the high ball. Green tracks ahead. We'll catch you all next time. See ya. Good night, folks.